my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit and every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course, and man, I am beyond excited to bring you today's show. So I'll be flying solo on today's show because I think I'm long overdue for a deep dive. It feels like we've been having a lot of guests, which has been absolutely amazing. But I've been wanting to dive into something, and now the time is right. So today's episode, we're going to be talking all about protecting your peace, right? And this is probably one of the more important things I feel like any of us can learn, is the idea of blocking out the noise of the outside world, blocking out the negativity of everyday life and the various challenges that come about, and not allowing them to sort of penetrate our energy, you know what I mean? And recognizing how just special and otherworldly our energy is, and how it just needs to be protected from the nonsense of the outside world, you know. And I am dropping with our brand Just Be that I've been talking about, obviously, like the Just Be Social Club and all those different things. You know, this is a wellness brand that I'm trying to build out beyond just clothing and beyond just like the mastermind, but really being a lifestyle brand for our community, and specifically people within our community who are interested in wellness and personal growth and spirituality to a degree, you know, all of the above. And really just trying to give us a face in this space. You know, I've talked about it a ton, how I've been a self-help junkie for a long time. I've gone to retreats and things like that. I've never seen people that look like myself in it. So trying to fulfill that need, that void. And a part of that, you know, just as somebody who loves clothing and is into fashion in general, I guess. I don't know, that sounds really pretentious to say, but part of that is like the merch and just like it's a conversation starter. I think that's what I always love about fashion. I'm not going to go on a ramble, a tantrum here about fashion, but I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and it's like, it sounds really superficial with, you know, what you wear and things like that, and it's not necessarily important, but I think it also is like a conversation starter. You know, it's the same way if you see somebody wearing like a shirt of an artist or a band that you love, it kind of lets you and know that they're kind of existing in the same world as you. You have something in common. And I view fashion in that same kind of way. So the sort of merchandise aspect and the clothing aspect of Just Be is really important to me. It's also just like a way for me to scratch a creative itch. Now, full circle here. So we're dropping today. Actually, we just dropped our Q2 merch drop, and the theme is protecting your peace. Right, that is the idea of this entire excursion, and I'm really excited about it because we have like meditation pillows that come with links to free guided meditations from people within our community. We have candles that we're going to be dropping. We have a really dope kind of like light windbreaker kind of rain jacket that I'm really excited about, as well as a t-shirt. And then I'm going to have the next edition of the book dropping in the next few weeks as well. So like I had kind of mentioned, my goal is to do 4 books, one for each quarter of this year. So a lot of really cool things, but the theme, like I said, is protect your peace, and justbe.nyc if you want to pick any of that stuff up or check it out. But I think this concept, I've kind of mentioned it a bunch throughout the course of the last few months, and it's something I've seen resonate with a lot of people because I think it's something that we're not naturally taught, right? And it's like the idea of setting boundaries and so many different things, and we'll get into the actual definition of like what I mean when I say protect your peace. But I think it's another example of like something society just has fallen incredibly short on. You know, we are often taught to be people pleasers, right? To put the comfortability of others before ourselves. And as a result, we sacrifice our own happiness. We lose parts of ourselves. We waste precious moments here on this planet, all with the intention of trying to make someone else comfortable, or, not to upset the herd, if you will, right? And to truly be happy in this life, I think sometimes you have to be unafraid of maybe rubbing somebody the wrong way, or of putting space in between you and someone else or something, of setting boundaries, right? Setting boundaries is incredibly important. It's not a selfish act. It's actually a act of necessity. You have to set boundaries in order to protect your own sanity, your own energy, your own happiness. So that's kind of the general idea of all that we're talking about today. So we're going to pull a blog post from Minimalism Made Simple. They have a really cohesive article about this, 17 ways to protect your peace. So we'll get into that for our people in the back segment. I'll also kind of give you some of my own personal tidbits of my own story and journey, I guess, with this whole idea of protecting your peace. We'll do that for our Mi Gente segment. And then I asked y'all on Instagram at DJ Dramos to participate for our Ask A Gringo segment, asking you, how do you protect your peace if you have some sort of practice at this point in life? So a bunch of cool stuff to get into today. I'm really excited. So without further ado, let's do a bit of a deep dive into the idea of protecting your peace in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
All right, so I pulled a blog post here from Minimalism Made Simple. It's called 17 Ways to Protect Your Peace, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes if you want to really dive into it. But I thought they had a really cohesive list of what it means to protect your peace, but then also diving into practical ways to apply this whole concept into your everyday life. So, I mean, kind of defining what it means to protect your peace first and foremost. They say, quote, "The definition of protect is to keep safe from harm or damage. When you protect your peace, you're keeping your mental and emotional state free from negative influence. This doesn't mean you have to put up walls and avoid all contact with the outside world. It simply means being mindful of the things and people that bring you down and making an effort to limit your exposure to them. It also means being deliberate about the things that bring you joy and make sure they are a part of your life." So I probably couldn't have defined it any better myself. It's the idea of, like they said, putting space between things or people that may bring you down. And obviously, this is complicated because it may very well be people in our family. It may very well be coworkers, whatever it is. And you're not going to perfectly avoid all the negative situations or all of the triggers that they may bring up. But it's the idea of figuring out ways to do your best to protect yourself as much as humanly possible, right? And then the other side of it is focusing on the things that do bring you joy and figuring out how can you surround yourself with them, be it people, be it activities, whatever it might be. How do you surround yourself with the things and the people that bring you joy more often than not, right? Those are all aspects of protecting your peace. Now, getting into this whole list of 17 ways to protect your peace, number one is sometimes you just have to say no. Even if it goes against what others expect from you, saying no is an important way to protect your peace. And I know for me, this is something I find incredibly difficult at times. I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to like me. I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I want to be there for people, to help people. But the thing that always resonates with me is that every time you say yes to one thing, it's a no for something else, right? And every time I say yes for one thing that I'm not really up for, that means it's a no for me having the time to heal if that's needed, right? Every time I say yes to working a gig that I'm not interested in, that is a no for me being able to get maybe a good night's sleep, right? I'm specifically talking about, like, I guess, DJing in that instance. And that's why I've become so strict on, like, I'm only playing clubs that I enjoy playing or working for people that I enjoy working for, and saying no to everything else. And at times it's uncomfortable. And it's also been tough to say no to people, who are maybe excited about having you there, or who need you to do them that favor. They need to fill a gig or something like that. But I've also recognized I'm doing disservice to myself by saying yes and then being miserable and then maybe not getting the rest that I was planning on getting, right? And it's more important to make sure that I'm the best version of myself than it is to, try and be everything for everyone, because it's just impossible, right? Now, number two on this list, they say, stand up for yourself. They say it's important to be assertive and speak up when you feel your boundaries are being crossed or you're not being treated with respect. And obviously, this is easier said than done. I've even had a lot of trouble with this. It's something I've worked on, of, making sure that I am letting people know if they've crossed the line, or kind of nipping it in the bud when it happens, And it's tough when it's people that are closest to you. If it's, people in your family, or, coworkers, or someone you're in a relationship with, it can be tough to kind of like set those boundaries and be very strict about it and say, I'm not engaging with you until you respect this boundary that I'm setting, this line that I'm saying. When you cross that line, we have nothing else to talk about anymore. But again, when you allow people to cross the line with you, it only really affects you in a negative manner, right? It brings you down and brings you into a dark place that maybe you're getting triggered, right? So it's important to stand up for yourself. Obviously, I think it goes without saying. Number 3 on this list is don't be afraid to walk away. Whew. It says if someone or something is causing you stress, it's okay to walk away. This doesn't mean you're giving up or being a coward. It just means that you're taking care of yourself and your peace of mind, and that is more important than staying in a situation that is making you unhappy. This one we can tackle from so many different fucking angles, right? I think first and foremost, I talk a lot about quitting your job, right? I always keep talking about this. And it's just like a general idea, right? I think I've broken this down enough where people know I'm not literally just saying quit your job for the hell of it. Some people enjoy their job. What I'm saying is the things that make you unhappy, you can walk away from. You don't have to stay there, right? I think like we're all, again, just like walking on eggshells and like trying to be polite, but at the same time suffering and like, being blind to our own needs in that moment, right? Like there's no shame in moving on from a situation, moving on from a job or a career that is no longer serving you. It's ridiculous to me that we're expected to just like fumble and bumble through the things that make us unhappy because it's a societal norm that you pick a career, you stay in it till you retire, and that's that, right? Like it just makes no sense. And then even on the other side of it, when it comes to relationships, I think that's kind of the other thing that came to mind. Romantic relationships. You have so many people who stick around in marriages or even just someone they're dating simply out of comfort, simply out of not wanting to hurt the other person, not wanting to have to get out there and start over, so to speak. And again, you're sacrificing yourself for reasons that really aren't worthy of you, right? Again, it's like a yes to one thing is a no to something else. So a yes to this relationship that makes you unhappy or this job that makes you unhappy is potentially a no to finding someone who actually makes you genuinely happy or finding a career that is actually fulfilling. So it's, imperative to push past that fear and that discomfort and walk away from situations that are no longer serving you. At the end of the day, if you are sticking around in situations that make you miserable, that make you unhappy, that don't bring you joy, you only have yourself to blame for living a day-to-day empty or unfulfilled life. As harsh as that sounds, you have to be brave and you have to push past the discomfort and walk away from those situations that are no longer serving you in a positive manner. Now, number 4 on this list, they say don't take things personally. We all say and do things that might hurt others from time to time, but it's important not to take those actions personally. And this is actually something I've been working on a lot recently. And not even necessarily like if somebody says something mean to me, but even if somebody says something that I take offense to, and I know that they didn't intend it in that way, like if they critique my work or ask me to, change something I'm doing, my initial gut reaction would be like, oh, they don't like me. They don't appreciate what I'm doing. They don't think that I'm good enough. And now they have to give me some sort of pointers to meet their standards, right? And I've had to talk myself through those situations to recognize like this isn't a personal thing. It's not an attack on me. It is somebody bearing a suggestion that makes sense for them. And it's up to me if I take that critique or if I take that suggestion. But it doesn't also mean that I'm not good at what I do, or I'm not worthy, or that I need others to kind of help me through because I'm incapable of doing so, you know? And then I think on the flip side of that, more specifically to what they're talking about, everything isn't always a personal attack on us. If the person at, because this happened to really say, the person at Home Depot is like rude to you while you're trying to get help, it's not necessarily because they don't like you and there's something about you that they want to like take, you know, want to be mean to. They're probably just dealing with some shit. They're having a rough day for whatever reason. They're overwhelmed and they're just taking it out on you. And it doesn't mean something personal about you. Now, that's not to say that you should sit back and accept people's abuse or mistreatment of you. Again, I think that goes with boundaries. But I think just recognizing that this isn't a deeper meaning about you and it's literally just a very surface level interaction. This person's having a bad day. They are taking it out on you. It's unprofessional. It's unacceptable. And that's where it ends. It doesn't mean that the Home Depot person saw something in you that means that you are lesser than or somebody that deserves to be walked all over. You know, I think it's important to not look at things too deeply or else we just start driving ourselves crazy. Now, number 5 on this list, maintain a healthy work-life balance. I think a lot of us recognize this during the pandemic. Some people not enough, unfortunately, but you know, it's the idea of just really figuring out what the fuck is important. You know, I love work. I love what I do. I'm so passionate about this, and few things in life bring me the amount of joy that my work does. But even I've recognized that, like, I need that time to decompress. I need that time to be a part of the lives of the people that I care about, because those are moments that I'll never get back. And those are incredibly important. And when I have that fulfillment in that sort of maybe family or friend aspect of my life, that bleeds into my work because I'm just fulfilled and I'm operating at a higher level, you know? So I love that they brought that up. Now, number 6, this one's tough. They say set boundaries with friends and family. Just because someone is related to you or has been your friend for years doesn't mean they have the right to overstep your boundaries. And this is particularly tough. I know particularly when you talk about our community and how many of our families have zero boundaries. They are always in your business. I know for me, it doesn't matter how old I get, I am still viewed as that little boy in my parents' house. And, you know, I even had this argument recently with my parents because they plan everything so last minute, and specifically my sister. And it was like my niece and nephew were having like a little graduation for, you know, finishing up one of their grades in elementary school. They were having a little performance, and like I was just told about it like 2 hours before it was starting. And then like Mother's Day was like the same thing, where it was like I was just given the information, you know, an hour before I was supposed to be there. And I got annoyed where I was like, you know, I had to kind of set them straight to a degree of like, this is unacceptable. I am trying to balance a lot. I am trying to spend time with those that I care about, but I'm also an adult who has other things going on in his life. And if you truly want me to be a part of what you're doing, then you have to take that into consideration and give me the respect that I deserve of being able to know ahead of time and not then have to be scrambling to make everything fit just because you decided to be, you know, I don't even know what the word would be, just because they're deciding to sort of be irresponsible with how they're planning things and how they're not taking into consideration other people's time. So obviously that's a not as serious of an example, but you know, I think it is important to have those hard conversations, you know, and anybody who is not receptive to it, you know, you have to kind of contemplate how much of a role they're going to have in your life. And obviously there are levels to it. If it's your parents, if it's siblings, that's a bit tougher. You don't, you know, barring some sort of crazy situation. And, you know, there's no shame in this being the case if, you know, you don't have a relationship with those closest to you, or your family, I should say. But barring some sort of situation like that where you just can't have interactions with them, it is important to then set that boundary and say, you know what, I want to have time with my family, but I know that if I spend too many days there a week, too many hours there, it's going to affect me negatively. So I'm going to go there for dinner. I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm going to get out, right away, and before anything kind of can begin to be brought up for me. And then, when it comes to friends, it's like, yeah, you have friends that you've known for a long time, but I think as in life, certain friendships, relationships, jobs, everything has a season potentially, right? And it doesn't mean that they have to be a part of your life forever. If you're no longer clicking on that level, if they're no longer able to come along for the ride and respect who you are at this current state in your life, then maybe your time together, your story, it ends here, and that's okay. Now, number 7, something I always talk about, calm your mind through meditation. We can quickly gloss over that one because I think meditation is just so incredibly important. It's a way I start my mornings, and it allows me to just have a relaxing, slow start to the morning to then ease into the day and not feel rushed. Number 8, focus on your internal peace. They say it's important to realize that some things are simply out of your control. And I love this. It's very like stoic, the idea of focusing on what you can control, right? And all that I can truly control is my mindset, the way that I view a situation, and the way that I react to that situation. Anything else beyond that is out of my control. I can't control how this person is going to react to something that I do or don't do. I can't control if my job is going to, love or hate what I do, or if they're going to go out of business, or if they're going to do layoffs, or if they're going to promote me or they're not going to promote me. I can only show up being the best version of myself, and that's it. And I have to accept that everything else is out of my control, and that's okay. That's a part of life. And you have to find the peace in that and not let yourself get stressed over things that you genuinely just have no control over if they do or don't happen. Number 9, listen to your inner voice. They say make time each day to listen to your inner voice. Don't be afraid of your peace, even when others don't understand. Things will fall into place if you stay true to yourself and honor what your heart wants. And I love this so much. Like, this is the idea of like, I think internally we often know what we want or what we need before it like actually begins to kind of manifest into the rational brain. And I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for being wise. Like that spiritual growth retreat that I went away to, the Hoffman process, like they talk about the different aspects of yourself, and one of them is the spiritual self. And it's like the part that's inside of you that is the like perfect version of yourself. It's the one that you're striving to be, but it already exists within you, right? And it has all the answers, and it just needs for you to listen to it. That's all you have to do is just slow the fuck down and listen to it, And that's like one of the meditations I do sometimes is listening to those different parts of myself, and then listening to a message from my spiritual self as far as like what I should be doing, or what I should be focusing on, or any of those things. I think it's important to just slow down and really listen to yourself. That's why I love like car rides, and sometimes I'll just like silently drive in the car, and I'll just be like, my mind will just be going, and it might be inspired by something. And like if I'm listening to a podcast, I get inspired, I'll pause the podcast and I'll just let my mind just start going and rattling off ideas. And it happened recently where I was literally like shaking with excitement because my mind was just fucking going, and it was just like feeding me what I think is the next step of my life, or where I should be focusing my energy. And again, that's like internal wisdom, right? And we often think we have to go somewhere else, go to some other person to tell us what to do. But we also have to sometimes sit with ourselves and realize like we kind of know the answers. We just don't give ourselves credit for it. Now, moving on, number 10, they say be grateful for what you have. And absolutely, gratitude is obviously a huge, huge aspect of, I think, happiness, and being able to look around and just feel appreciative for all that you have and the person that you are today. I think that just goes so far. Like, it sounds so corny, but it just brings up like those warm feelings. And I think those are like parts of fulfillment, and fulfillment to me equals peace, right? I know for me, as I've been very reflective and like trying to be very mindful of where I am in life, and like tell myself, man, good job. And like, look around, this is awesome. Like the life that you're living every day. And like, even something as simple as like, oh man, it's like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I'm able to go and run errands, or able to go to the mall and pick up a new outfit, right? Like I'm not at a job where I'm like trying to figure out my day based around somebody else's schedule anymore. Like that, and that's like a little thing. I can go grocery shopping in the middle of the day. Like that's silly, but it's also like I'm trying to showcase the little things are things you should be grateful for, right? Like the gratitude within that. And that like brings me so much joy, where it's just like, man, I'm proud of myself for the life that I've built, because I get to do all of these things on my own terms. And they're little things, but they add up to the bigger picture, right? So gratitude is always a huge component of that. Number 11, take time for yourself. They say when we spend time caring for others and on other people's priorities, our own needs are left by the wayside. This can lead to frustration or burnout. If you feel overwhelmed, take a moment to reflect on what's happening in your life right now. And this is something I'm just beginning to really like start to grasp. I think the idea of taking time for myself, but it's imperative. I think the reason right now I think I'm not walking around with as much stress as I normally would, and this is all very new, and there's like a flow happening. And granted, there are certain like productivity things where I'm just like, man, I probably could have hit that week a little bit harder, but I'm also feeling good as a human being, right? And there has to be that balance. So maybe I'm feeling like I could have gotten more things of my to-do list done last week. At the same time, if I'm reflecting, I feel so fucking happy and fulfilled right now, right? So is it really a negative? It probably isn't. It's because I took the time for myself last week as needed. That's why I'm walking into this week feeling great, right? I could have been more productive. I could have not gone out to dinner last week and just spent that time catching up on projects. But you know what? That dinner was fulfilling. I was spending time with someone that I enjoyed their company, and I got to just be present in the moment. So that brought me joy as a human being. Why wouldn't I take that time for myself? That then makes me far happier starting off this work week, or like I said, I mean, shit, I went and got a whole new wardrobe last week, because I feel like I'm like rebranding my next chapter of myself. And I could have been working on that, whatever, I think it was on a Monday afternoon. And instead I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take this time for myself and do something that's fun for me and that I feel like is representative of where I'm moving into the next phase of my life. And I'm not going to make myself feel guilty about it, because this is what's going to save me from being burnt out and being overwhelmed, buried under a whole bunch of to-do lists. And that's not going to bring out the best in me at the end of the day. Number 12 on this list, they say it's easy to get wrapped up in what's going wrong, but don't forget about those who are going right. Positive relationships and positive environments can be just as important for your mental health as getting rid of negative people. When you stop paying attention to all that's negative in your life, you give yourself room for gratitude. Gratitude brings inner peace and happiness. And yeah, I think that this is like the mindset shift of glass half full, glass half empty. And oftentimes the voice that is pushing the narrative of glass half empty tends to be a bit louder than the one that's telling you the glass is half full. And I've been working on this, where it's like a negative thought will pop into my mind, and then I'll just like push back against it until that negative thought has no leg to stand on anymore, and it's reminding myself of all the good things in my life, and then separating myself from anything that I would deem to be negative, right? Anything that's in my power, be it people, be it situations, like putting a lot of distance between myself and those things, and just keep focusing on the people that bring me joy, the things that bring me joy, and the parts of my life that are incredible, and making them the focal point of where my mind goes, Number 13, this is fucking huge for anybody that's like dating or has gone through a crazy relationship. Remember, you can't change other people. They say it's easy to get frustrated with friends, family members, and coworkers when they don't see things your way. If you find yourself facing constant conflict in relationships, focus on acceptance. And I brought up dating. Obviously, that's not what they're talking about. I brought up dating because I think one thing that I've learned is that you have to just meet people where they are. You can't fall in love with somebody's potential. Either you fall in love with who they are right now and you're okay with, if this is the version that they stay, you have to be okay with it, right? And I think that's like something so many of us fail to do when we begin dating. We meet somebody and we're just like thinking about the ways that we can change them or correct them, or convincing ourselves that this relationship is going to work because you feel like you can convince that person to see things your way. And that's just a recipe for disaster. And then also when it comes to friends and family, I love how they brought that up, because we talk about complicated family dynamics. And again, not to set yourself up for being abused or taken advantage of, but there is a point where you get to and say, hey, this is just how my mom is, or this is just how my dad is. And I'm going to figure out a way to deal with it in a positive manner, right? Maybe I know how to bring out the best in them. Maybe I know the moments when they're acting a certain way, they're just asking for something. And now I'm going to have to figure out how to give it to them, right? Or, like for me, my mom is like a helicopter parent. She's very anxious about everything. And for a long time, I would take that as she doesn't trust me. She doesn't think I'm capable of like surviving out here on my own and making good decisions. And it's easier said than done, but I've been trying to put into practice of like taking a deep breath and being patient, to realize like this means nothing about me. She's just an anxious person. I have to accept her as that, and just let her have her anxious moment, and realize again, it doesn't mean anything about me or my capability of living life or not fucking things up, essentially, right? So just, keeping those things in mind, I think are really important. Next thing they talk about on the list of 17 ways to protect your peace, number 14 is declutter your physical space. And I think this is like a very simple thing, but I personally never realized this until like I now have my studio space, where I was like the artist and I had shit everywhere. It was never organized, and like it was a mess. And now having like this designated space for my creativity, I've tried to make it a point to keep it as minimal as possible, without stripping away kind of the personality, but like keeping the space as minimal as possible, trying to organize where I keep all my gear and things like that. And what I realize is, when I walk in here every morning, it's like this excitement, this relief, this open space that I see that is just like beautiful to me. And all the surfaces are just waiting for me to kind of like be able to go and do whatever I need to do on them, right? And that adds the excitement, rather than like walking in and I'm trying to like clean off a tabletop just so I can put my laptop on there so I can get to work, And then on the other side of things, this I need to get a little bit better at, but like having my shit organized, where if I get in a creative idea and I'm like, oh, I want to shoot this photo, let me like set up these lights real quick, and let me get like, these the extra light that I have to put in the ceiling or whatever it is. If I then have to go searching for all of this gear and like all of this setup, the idea begins to become less and less exciting, and you'll burn yourself out to a degree sometimes, like before you even get to the idea. You're just like, you know what? I don't have time for this today. I'll do it another day, and that day never comes. So yeah, I love this simple idea of decluttering your physical space. Number 15, take a break from your virtual life. I couldn't agree with this more. They say the internet is a wonderful place, but it also is a horrible place. You can waste hours upon hours on Facebook and Reddit alone. You don't even need to venture into Twitter or others. And 100%, I think I've talked about this, but I take a social media Sabbath on Sundays where I don't open social media. And I think it's important to recognize this shit as a tool and not use it as escapism, which we all do, right? I can be at the doctor's office or at the fucking, Trader Joe's checkout line, and I'm just binging Instagram for no reason, right? And I think it's important to have a balance between just using this thing as either entertainment or for work or whatever it is as a tool, but also recognizing the present moment and not getting too caught up in what's going on these platforms. Number 16, connect with nature. I think that goes without saying. I don't need much of an explanation of that one. But I'm building this like deck in my backyard right now, and like it's half done, and I just like kind of sat on the half of it that I'd finished, and I was like, man, this is just like nice to just be outside, the sun hitting your face, looking at the clouds. Like there's something deeply spiritual about such a simple act, you know, so definitely love that. And then the last thing to talk about here, number 17, they say, express yourself. Expressing your emotions to others is a great way to both feel better and develop stronger, healthier relationships. There are two effective ways of doing so: verbalizing what you're feeling and expressing it through action, or both. Talk about how you feel in a logical, non-judgmental way with someone who has earned your trust. Also, when you have time alone during quiet moments, think, meditating, or praying. Express yourself freely by talking about it out loud. And yeah, I think this is huge. I think particularly, I was talking about this with someone the other day. I think as men in particular, I think we all have our stories, but I think like a societal norm for men is to not express themselves. And like, I think that's why we have so much toxic masculinity and violence when it comes to men and things like that. And even just like, I know for me, I've always been an emotionally intelligent person, but I've always felt like I've had to hide that part of myself to get the acceptance of my peers, particularly growing up. And I think suppressing my thoughts and my emotions and never letting them out, never feeling I had a comfortable space to do so, it created a lot of anxiety, a lot of just anger, and it was just like these feelings bubbling up inside of me. And now I realize that as I've gotten better at being far more open and expressive and articulating how I feel, even if it's an unpopular opinion as far as like, you know, the way others might judge me, I think it's a part of why I'm walking around a bit lighter these days, you know. And I think what I've noticed is the right people will be attracted to that. And when you have someone in your life that you can openly share those ideas and thoughts with, you are naturally like walking around with less weight on your back. And I love the idea of also talking to yourself. Like, I literally will talk out loud to myself like a psychopath. Like, I will have full-blown conversations, like almost interviewing myself. But I'm like working through thoughts and ideas in my head and concepts. And in doing so, I discover something about myself, or I discover an idea and I get excited, or I find myself relieved from a particular situation because I talked myself through the initial emotions and got down to what I was really feeling, and then got down to how do we solve it, or what is the actual reality beyond what you're feeling. So yeah, I think we can't just bottle these things up. I journal a lot too. I think whatever it is, you know, I think Esperanza LeBron talks about, it's like almost like mind vomiting. Like, you have to just get these thoughts out of your head in whatever way you can, be it talking to somebody, like therapy, which I'm big on, and journaling every morning like I do, and just like clearing your mind of all the thoughts and emotions going on in your head, and really kind of getting a grip on what you're feeling, and what you're trying to express, I think is incredibly important. Now, that's the list of 17. Their final thoughts here, they say, there are many things you can do to protect your peace and find happiness, whether it's decluttering your physical space, spending time in nature, or expressing yourself. Taking care of yourself is key to building inner strength and resilience. By focusing on the positive aspects of life and letting go of negative people and situations, you can create a peaceful, calm, and happy life that is truly worth living. Remember, you have power over only one person in your life, you. So choose wisely and protect your peace at all costs. I love that. I wish I wrote that last little sentence right there. I think that's so beautiful. And again, it's like, how do we take control over our lives? And in doing so, and how that looks in practice, I should say, is just focusing on the things that we can control. That's it. You want to be happy. You want to live a life of fulfillment. Simply focus on you and what you can control. And like it says, these are 17 things that you can actively do to bring yourself happiness and fulfillment. And it all starts within. Now, we have this list, which I loved. I kind of want to give you a bit of a personal touch into my own kind of concept with this, being that it's something really personal for me, obviously, that I felt like I wanted to express in the Just Be brand, and something I've been trying out in practice. So we'll talk about that in our Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente. All right, so I know that list, well, we went on for a little while with that one, so I'm not going to go super long on kind of my own personal ideas behind this because I really relate to that list, and I think it's all applicable. It's all things that I've tried to apply. But I think for me, one of my like general concepts that I try to live by is the idea of building my own bubble. And when I say building my own bubble, I don't mean like building a bubble and then just never leaving it and like just being antisocial and not being aware of the world outside of it, but more so like building this bubble that you can leave and come back to as you please. I think home, it starts with home. It's a safe space, right? The place that you live, the place you lay down your head, it should bring you peace. It should bring you some sort of fulfillment, some sort of relief from the day that happened. And home is beyond just the four walls, but also maybe the people that are a part of that. Your partner should also feel like home, should feel like peace. Your dog, or your kids, whatever it might be. The type of lifestyle that you've set up for yourself on a regular basis that operates around this home. That's like the ultimate bubble. Your family that visits you, that you visit, your friends, those things, like, really perfectly, or not perfectly because we're not perfect, but really, really intentionally curating the things that you are going to be surrounded by on a consistent basis and the people that you're going to be surrounded by on a consistent basis. And again, there's only but so much you can control, but these safe spaces that you have, or these people that are home to you, or that are safe to you, you're in control of all of that, right? So no matter what life throws at you, once you handle it and deal with it, you always have this safe, peaceful place to go back to, right? And like that's the idea of setting boundaries and all of the things we've talked about, right? You've curated your life and the aspects of it that you can control, your home, into something that, for the most part, instantly brings you some sort of peace and fulfillment. I know for me, I love coming home. I love my studio, which is like my second home, all of which have been intentionally curated to be places that give me an escape from the noise of the outside world and allow me to surround myself with all of the things that I enjoy. I got a dog for that reason. Like I always say, as a DJ, my main thing was always like, give yourself a reason to come home, right? Because it's easy to live that lifestyle. I'm out till 4 a.m. There's alcohol around. There are friends who have, the same schedule. There are, depending on whatever you're into, there are people of the opposite sex that are always around. And if you don't have a reason to go home, it's easy to get caught up in that lifestyle, and it's easy to get wrapped up in, being out till all hours of the night and having superficial friendships and not taking care of your body, all of the above. And for me, like, one of the intentional things that I did was getting a dog whom I love very much, but he gives me a reason to come home. I can't stay out till all hours of the night because I have to take care of him. I have to let him out. I have to walk him, all those different things. So I'm not going to even be able to consider being tempted into the party lifestyle of staying out all night at this point in my life. I did that when I was younger and it's fine. I didn't have responsibilities, but at this point in my life, to be the man that I want to be, I need to just go there and enjoy myself. I get to play music for a while, get to make some money doing it, and that's it. I'm not trying to extend the party, and that's just a small example of the things that I try to implement in my life to maintain discipline and to maintain the sort of lifestyle that I know is what I want for myself, right? And I think that's, like, again, part of building that bubble. And it's also who you're surrounding yourself with, right? I have acquaintances and I have friends and family, right? And I don't conflate acquaintances for friends or family. They are acquaintances, and it's not in a rude manner, but it's also people that I know are not going to be genuine parts of my life. And we can be polite, we can have the pleasantries, but there's going to be a big distance between, those people and my actual life beyond my career. And even in social media, I try not to post who I'm dating or pictures of my family or anything like that, because I believe that there has to be a distance between my real personal life and the outside world, and even beyond just like the physical people you surround yourself with, social media, who are the people you follow that you're seeing on there? Like, are they putting positive thoughts and ideas into your head? They're making you feel good. The content you're watching on television, is it mindless and just sort of like toxic at the end of the day, or is it like educating and inspiring you, right? And I talk about that type of shit all the time. But like, again, all of these are aspects to building your bubble, which in the bigger picture is about protecting your peace, and then even for me, I recognize that I can't work a regular 9 to 5. It just doesn't work for me. I am miserable. I am like physically feel like I'm carrying around a ton of bricks when I'm walking around my 9 to 5 buildings, even if it's a job that is fun. It just doesn't work for me. So I set up my life in a way where I can do the things that I love doing. I can make my money, but at the same time, I have the peace of just working for myself, right? I have my partnerships and I have people that I have to talk to and collaborate with, but nobody's curating what my day looks like for me. And I have autonomy over how I spend my time and who I spend my time with, right? I'm not getting forced into spending time with coworkers unnecessarily that I don't enjoy, or in a building I don't enjoy being at, or at a job I don't enjoy, right? And again, all of that takes work, but you're in control of that. You're in control of whether or not you stay at a job you hate, or that you put the effort into finding a solution to get you to a happier place, right? And that for me is like, I'm building a life where my peace, my fulfillment, and my happiness are coming first before anything else. And like this year in particular, I can honestly say like I'm just walking around feeling fulfilled and at peace. And it's because there are so many fucking levels to, I don't know, there's so many like levels in between my bubble and the outside world. There's like so much buffer, there's a buffering system that has to happen. And that's why I'm at such peace, like even, getting like an assistant this year was so big for me. And shout out to Brenda, who's also now my business partner, but being able to put distance between myself and the things that I don't enjoy doing, as far as like the regular day-to-day operations of what I do, that has like taken so much weight off my plate. You know what I mean? I don't have to figure out aspects of things that I'm not good at or that I just don't want to do at this point in my life. And again, it's like, how do I keep fine-tuning that? I'm in a really good place right now, but of course it could always get better. How can I take this other thing off my plate that I don't enjoy and put it somewhere else, right? And I think that's how we have to keep looking at life, is like fine-tuning each and every aspect of it. And it's never going to end. You're always going to have some, a better way to do something. But it's just keep fine-tuning life, to create situations that allow you to exist in a state of peace far more often than in one where you're kind of dealing with chaos or just noise in general. And I think that's the idea of like protecting your peace, is being conscious of every decision you make and every situation you put yourself in, being intentional with the idea of like, how is this going to affect my bottom line, and your bottom line being your peace at the end of the day, and your energy, and the way that you end up feeling and then presenting yourself to those closest to you. I hope that made sense. But man, I'm excited to hear from y'all. I think we haven't done a full-on Ask a Gringo in a minute. So I want to get y'all's take on how you protect your peace. So we'll do that for our Ask a Gringo segment.
Ask a Gringo.
I have a question.
All right, so for this week's Ask a Gringo segment, and at DJ Dramos, if you want to be a part of these conversations, I simply ask people, how do you protect your peace? And I got a bunch of answers. I know we're running a little long in this episode, so I'm gonna try to keep it short here for the most part. We'll read a few that we got time for. At They All Hates One, just simply says, by telling people to fuck themselves. And this is very aggressive, but I love it. I think we're talking about setting boundaries. We're talking about, speaking up for yourself. And people who are fucking with you and fucking with your peace, sometimes you simply just have to tell them to go fuck themselves. And I get it. Let's see. At Garden of Awareness, this is Natalie, who we had on a guest as a guest recently. She says, observing the fluctuations of the mind through meditation. And I love this because it's spending that time with yourself, right? And that was one of the things we talked about on the list. And it's getting in touch with what's going on inside of you. Like your body, your mind, they're telling you what they need. And unfortunately, we're not trained to listen to them. You know, we're kind of trained to bury that down and ignore it. And when you take that time to slow down, you can work through those emotions and process those emotions, or listen to what is needed and then give it to your mind or body. And you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. And it's not this sort of like tug and pull relationship, or like this relationship that you have with yourselves where you bury it deep down until you eventually just explode. Like it's a far more level way of living and being happy and fulfilled. And I think that that's a part of it, is like listening to yourself and figuring out what you need before it becomes like this dire circumstance. You know what I mean? It's like going to the doctor. It's like going to the doctor regularly so you can, God forbid, prevent any ailment that could be serious, right? It's like it's as if you were able to catch a disease in its early stages, it's more likely to be treatable, rather than if you just ignored until it was, you know, too late at that point, and sadly the disease is like taking over your body. And I think, you know, that's the disease of mental health and anxiety and all of those things. Is like we put it off until it just consumes us, and at that point it's too late, and it's just like all hands on deck in survival mode. See, at @cross_soul says, I stopped caring about what others thought of me. I realized not everyone will approve of me. And that's fucking huge. And I love that. And, you know, I think that, knowing Victor, because he's been a really great participant in this whole thing since we started the podcast. That's huge, and that's such growth for you, man. I see that, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That's how we all should live, right? We talk about what we're in control of. I can't control what somebody else thinks of me at the end of the day. If they love what I do, amazing. If they hate what I do, it is what it is. I can't control them, right? And there's always going to be that person. So like, even if I focus all my time on doing whatever I can to convince that person to like me, and then eventually they do, the second that happens, there's going to be another person that pops up who hates what I do. And then now I have to change myself again to go. And it's a never ending fucking cycle. And you just have to accept the fact that you're not going to be for everyone. That is okay. That is a normal part of life. That's the way things go. And it's not your job to convince people to see your worthiness or to approve of who you are or what you do. Like, it's not worth your time on this earth. It's a never ending battle. It's one that you're never going to win. So focusing again on what you can control, and that is how you feel about yourself at the end of the day. And last one, at Nicolosa_Vega says, you've touched on this before, but just aligning yourself with people who aspire to grow. I try to be mindful of the content I consume as well. Easier said than done, but I try. And yeah, in that second part, I completely agree. I think it's obviously easier said than done when it comes to TV or social media and things like that. And I think for me, it's not about being perfect. I always say this, like, it's just awareness, right? Because the awareness is automatically going to begin to allow you to start moving in the right direction. And listen, sometimes you just want to watch mindless fucking television, and I get it. Like, I've been watching that show with The Weeknd on HBO, The Idol, and there's nothing I'm getting out of it as far as like, you know, it fulfilling my soul or anything like that. It's just purely like salacious entertainment. You know what I mean? And it's okay. Like, that half hour I gave to myself to watching these episodes is fine. You know, it's not something to be ashamed of, but I am aware of it, right? And my awareness allows me to not be ingesting that type of content as the majority of the things that I ingest, right? And then I think the other part, what you said about surrounding yourself with growth-minded people, you know, I think that's like the understatement of understatements in general, as far as the importance that it could have on our lives. That's why I love like the mastermind that I'm doing, because, you know, I'm in a group and we're on Zoom, but like that's 10 people that are all on the same page with just wanting to be better. And that's inspiring, and it pushes you to, you know, be the best version of yourself, you know, because you're seeing other people having success and other people expressing things and co-signing and making it okay for you to do the same. I think, you know, all of that is incredibly important. That's why I love like again, the Just Be Social Club. I'm so excited to launch a second one in July. Brenda at mindofyounglord.com if you want to be a part of it. But I think it's just inspiring. And I think all of us are in need of inspiration on a regular basis. And it's just the human condition, right? Because we all get those moments, those spurts of it where we're excited about an idea, or like, it's like, oh, I can't wait to, like, I'm going to go to the gym this year. I'm going to eat healthier. And maybe you do it for a little bit, and then you kind of lose a little bit of that excitement, that electricity, you know? But if you were surrounded by people who were of the same mindset and who were committed, and you're like seeing their results, or you're at their house and you're seeing their shopping list, right? And it's like, if you're consistently around that, it's just going to begin to change the framework of your mind to like normalize it and begin to hop on board with that, right? It's just the idea, again, it's like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I've said this a million times, it doesn't necessarily have to be people that you are in physical proximity with. It could be a podcaster you listen to every week. It could be an author, a content creator you follow, you know, but just somebody who is constantly lighting that fire for you and reminding you of like the bigger version or the bigger picture that you're working towards. So yeah, I think all of that is so incredibly important. I appreciate you for sharing that. And man, thank y'all for participating at DJ Dramos on Instagram. You want to be a part of these conversations. And with that said, man, we're going to tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusions Stew.
Time for conclusions stew.
All right, so this episode went a little bit long, but I'm completely okay with it. I think this is something I'm so fucking passionate about. I'm really excited to release like this next drop of not only merch, but the lifestyle aspect of Just Be. I think with the meditation pillows, and like we have these guided meditations from people who look like you and sound like you, and I'm just so fucking excited for that. I've done a couple of them so far, and they've been wildly helpful. So I'm really, really, really excited to share that with y'all. Everything is up on justbe.nyc. It's all live, and I'm just excited to kind of build out this next version of the brand, and more importantly, not the brand, but like the community. I think this is something that doesn't exist usually for people like us, and I just want us to be able to dive in and get all of the benefits of working on ourselves and going on this whole wellness journey together. So justbe.nyc is the website. You can check all that stuff out. I'm really excited about it. You want to be a part of the Just Be Social Club for July, our mastermind. We're opening up a second one, brenda at mindofyounglord.com, and we'll get in contact with you to set all of that up. And man, yeah, kind of recapping what we were talking about today, you know, the idea of protecting your peace. Obviously, that list is amazing. I'm going to put it in the show notes, the link to it. But it's like I think the summary of it all is like just being deliberate and intentional with every aspect of your life as much as you can be, right? And recognizing that every little aspect of your life matters, right? From the way that you interact with loved ones or coworkers, you know, be it setting boundaries or not setting boundaries, the way that you balance work and life, the way that you take time for yourself, the way that you do or don't take time to listen to yourself, like all of that has an effect. And again, we're not going to be able to create a life where we never have to deal with anything negative, where we never have to deal with the bullshit of the outside world, that we don't hear the noise of it all. And that's not the goal. That's impossible, right? But what we can do and what we should be focusing on are the aspects that we can control. And you can control how deliberate you are about the way you set up your life and your home life and the sort of bubble like I talked about, right? You know, you can be in control of that. You can be in control of what you do or don't accept as far as how others treat you, or the lifestyle that you choose, be it the relationship that you're in, the job that you're in, you know, the amount of time that you give to others, you know, you're in control of all of that. So that's like the synopsis of protecting your peace, is like taking control of your life and being deliberate with all of the things that you're able to be in control of, right? There are so many things outside of our control in this life. We have to like be able to harness and focus in on the shit that we actually can control. Like that's important. That's crucial to leading a fulfilled and peaceful life. And like, I know life is going to throw some shit at me at some point in time. I'm going to have to react, and it's going to be stressful. But I know that I've set my life up in a way where I'm just living in this constant state of fulfillment and peace. And even if life knocks me out of that for a second, I know that I've been so deliberate about the way I'm moving and the people I'm surrounding myself with and the type of work that I'm doing. I know that even when life is going to knock me out of that peace, it's going to be momentary. It's going to be a very small blip on the radar, and I'm just going to get back to being in my mode of fulfillment and my life of peace, because I've installed so many different systems and buffers, and I'm still constantly tweaking every single day to maintain that peace and to protect that peace and protect my energy as a whole. So that's I think the general idea of what we're talking about today with Protect Your Peace. And man, with that said, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Again, justbe.nyc. Check out all the new merch and like the new add-ons and things like that. I'm really excited to bring this. I feel like it's like, I don't know, I think it's like the next evolution of what I want my legacy to be in this world. And then on a very small, selfish level, I just felt like I was like in my bag creatively designing things and just like bringing ideas to life. Yeah. And like the whole, the like logo that we're dealing with for the Protect Your Peace thing, it's based off of New York City Guardian Angels, who were like a kind of like a vigilante justice group in like, I think it was the 70s in New York, when like the subway system was really like a lot of crimes were happening and the police presence wasn't there. These were individuals who just volunteered to like patrol the streets and protect people in New York City. So I thought it was fitting to kind of flip their logo into something for Just Be when we're talking about the idea of protecting your peace. So that's the story behind that one. So I'm really excited about it. I hope y'all like it. justbe.nyc. And man, that's it. I'll catch you on Thursday for our Thursday Trends episode. Till then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.